is Gone Racin, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
And it's another edition of Gone Racing, and I tell you, I think the flagman at NASCAR, his job is in jeopardy if he would see Wyatt waving that flag.
He's even
back
giving
there.
us the hold.
The big news coming out today is that Shohei Ohtani has a torn UCL. I'm predicting a torn UCL for Wyatt the way he is waving.
I was warming up. I was ready to go.
He says he got loose.
Yeah.
I was doing a couple push-ups.
I think Ohtani got loose in the bullpen.
I want to see him do the double flag, the old double flag.
Oh, the old Indy 500 back in the 50s and everything. Yeah, that's what we need.
But
I'll give it a try.
Yeah. Anyway, well, speaking of checkered flags, Watkins Glen, we had a checkered flag, and William Byron, 22-1. The guy who has won more races than anybody this year was 22-1.
Well, and Motley, me and Wyatt talked about this last week. How many times do you and I sit here and say, Alex Bowman or William Byron? They are two drivers that absolutely disappear off the face of the earth. You don't talk about them anymore. You don't know what's going on with them. And Wyatt and I said it last week. We said, I'm not high on Byron. I looked at his stats, horrible stats here. One top 10 races. I said, but William Byron, every time we just stop talking about him is when he comes out and just puts it on him. And what does he do? Comes out and flat puts it on him.
And he really did put it on him. I mean, he was a dominant car all day long. I mean, terrific. Like I said, he was 22-1 to win. He was plus 600 for a top three. He won his group at plus 370. And he got Chevy, the minus 125. No really big deal. But before we talk about the way the rest of the guys finished top 10 and the other top threes, one guy who has really left us shaking our head because I think it was really his last best chance to make the playoffs, Chase Elliott. What on earth happened there, Brendan?
Look, we're going to get off of betting talk for a second and be a NASCAR talk show for a minute. Might be the worst team call in the history of, and maybe the fans at home don't understand why I'm saying it is the worst. You have the Hendrick organization, which is unarguably one of the greatest in the history of our sport.
Worse than the time that Kurt Busch pitted at Daytona when it was pouring down rain and gave the win to Justin Haley?
Worse.
Okay.
Worse than that, because they thought they might get there was reasons to believe the race would get going again. This was absolutely, when you figure this is the 4-car juggernaut team, right? You have Chase Elliott, champion. You have all these guys that are just phenomenal. 2 champions, 2 guys that are just winning races. This whole place they've got a war room that probably costs $5 million. They have live telemetry. They've got 25 engineers watching live all the data. They have people that know exactly everything about this car. And they made a decision that even me at home on my couch, when I heard what they were doing, I went, you can't do 3 laps on the switch. Now, I grant you, I'm a never was, almost was, that doesn't have all the pedigree. I'm sorry. Even I know once I turn that switch, I do not have 3 laps at Watkins Glen. And Alex Gustafson, we're good for 3. You'll pass us twice, is what he said. Okay. I'm doing math going, there's no chance in hell. After he runs out of gas, he says, we got bad information. Sorry. I am sorry. That is not good enough.
He's still the crew chief. At the end of the day, he's making that call.
As a driver in the car, even I go, 3 laps? No chance. That box, what do I know about that box? Gallon and a half. Maybe they have a bigger box than I know of. Like I said, not saying I know everything, but I'm telling you, I know from history what these things do. There's no way. And then Larry McReynolds. I love my Larry McReynolds. I listen on Sirius XM NASCAR radio all the time. Listen to him and Danielle's show. Larry Mack comes out with one of the best stats. I liked the strategy he was on. He ran the old school from start to finish.
Finish to start. They like to run them backwards on the road.
Run it completely backwards. He needed a 37-lap run and a 36-lap run. And we knew that these cars could get 34, 35, maybe if you push 36 laps out of fuel run. They needed 37, 36. They were already pushing the limit to get to the end. He was on lap 38 when he ran out of gas.
Which makes no sense why he was even running that last lap.
He didn't need the extra lap. So the strategy Alan was running already, he had hit it. Why keep him out for that lap and take this risk, when he had a car? Was he good enough to win? I don't know. But when you run the strategy backwards, you're the first one to pit. That's a massive advantage. If there's no caution, you can make it to the end.
Well, if you run out of gas on a road course, you are guaranteed not to win.
Yes.
I mean, you cannot run that risk.
No. And I could not believe that decision was made by Hendrick Motorsports.
You know, if he runs out of gas with 1 lap to go in the race or 2 laps to go in the race, okay, you went for it. You tried it. You run out of gas with 37, 36, 35 laps to go in a race.
Yeah.
Inexcusable.
You don't need it. And I could not believe it. That it still has me upset. One, because a bunch of us here are betting Chase Elliott all season. So as a bettor, I was all pissed off. But 2, as just a fan and a driver going, my God, that was just, you know better. They know better. And that team knows better.
And you know, the one thing that I was actually thinking of, and I know it's like a different form of racing, but you know, I was picturing, imagine if A.J. Foyt owned that race team and was sitting up there with a laptop.
God.
You remember Indy when Robbie Gordon ran out and he spiked the laptop on the pit wall?
Rick Hendrick is, thank God, not A.J. Foyt, because A.J. Foyt, there wouldn't have been a pit box left after that call. Everybody would have been fired.
Oh, my goodness. All right, well, let's take a look at our top 10. Denny Hamlin was plus 550 for a top 3. Pretty good return on Denny Hamlin coming in second there. Christopher Bell, we know his road racing prowess of the plus 275. A.J. Allmendinger really needed this win. He didn't need 4th. It was a good run for Allmendinger. Ty Gibbs, a terrific run for Ty Gibbs, placing in the top 5. No real big surprises after that. Truex, a great road course racer.
Chris Buescher's still there.
Chris Buescher, who I'd like to point out, I picked Chris Buescher to win his group. He's in Group C.
And he didn't win.
Not only does he not win his group, he finished 3rd in his group and 7th in the race. William Byron happened to be in his group, which did not help the situation. Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano. Honestly, kudos to A.J. Allmendinger, Ty Gibbs. Good run for those guys, but for A.J., it's still got to be a disappointment because he had one thing in mind. And
I was kind of well, one, I know somebody else also that had A.J. as a top 3 bet.
I was really hoping he'd dive it in there and just take Bell out for 3rd.
And I was sitting there going, oh, they got a shot at him. And I kind of poo-pooed him on the show last week saying he has not shown up lately. He has not shown up. And here's the problem. That 4th place finish, it still means he didn't show up because he didn't do what he needed to make the playoffs. And the last restart is what really said to me that this is not the AJ that we saw on road courses for a while. He went into turn 1 on that restart. Here's your opportunity. You got to make some magic here, AJ. You got to go do something. He didn't dive bomb. He didn't get aggressive. He didn't do nothing. He just kind of said, oh, let's get through the corner.
Which is really surprising when you know that it was I mean, because I don't really think he's a guy that's sitting there saying, well, I can go win Daytona.
That was his big shot. Look,
he could, but
Colleague has been phenomenal at the super speedways, right? They've dominated the Xfinity Series. AJ won.
But actually, I give Haley a little bit more of an advantage over Allmendinger when it comes to going to Daytona, though.
But he had an opportunity on the restart. You must take advantage of that opportunity. And AJ just instead of being a lion, he was a kitty cat and meowed and just went through and finished 4th. Great finish. Love you. That was really excited for you. But it doesn't do anything for him in the long run.
Well, speaking of the points, we now have 15 of our 16 spots we know are locked in. Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski added their names to the list this week by getting locked in. So here's what we're down to. There's only 2 guys who can point their way in.
Yep.
Bubba Wallace, Ty Gibbs. The only 2 guys mathematically can point their way in. If someone wins who's not already in the top 15, then they're automatically in. Bubba's lead, though, over Ty Gibbs is pretty commanding. It's 32 points.
I mean, listen, 32 points with stage racing. Bubba gets wrecked early, and Ty Gibbs gets 8 points in a stage, 6 points in a stage. There's 14, finishes 5th.
But oftentimes at Daytona, we see the first 2 stages run relatively calm. And I think if you're Bubba, you really got to be thinking about stage points. I mean, if you can get up there and finish 3rd or 4th in each stage, and you can pad that, even getting into a crash late could still save your bacon a little bit there, because still Ty Gibbs is going to have to
But look at the
finish
names.
well.
Look at the names Bubba has to have that can't have good days.
They can't win.
They can't win. We've just talked about A.J. Allmendinger and the colleague teams, how great they are. Justin Haley, his teammate on the colleague team, and how great they are. Austin Dillon, how many times? Austin hit a walk-off homer in this race last year and won the Daytona 500. You've got Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott, 2 of the Hendrick cars.
I mean, we're going to have a Hendrick car sitting home. We may have 2 Hendrick cars sitting home for the playoffs.
The guys that he's racing to get that last spot, there is a juggernaut of race teams and names that are racing for that 16th spot.
Daniel,
Bubba is not.
Daniel Suarez. Daniel Suarez is another one.
With a teammate that's already in that, there's a lot of stuff going to play out here.
How does that – let me ask you, how does that play out? you're Ross Chastain and you're leading, and Suarez is running second, coming to the white flag.
Everybody's been asking this question all week, and is it bad? Is it good? Is teammates? Here's what I tell everybody. I will push anybody to the white flag. I will do what I have to do to get to the white flag to be in a position. Once I'm in that position at the white flag, and I'm coming off turn 2, and I'm already working my idea of where I'm going to go to the finish, I'm working on how I can win that race. But now I was also a perennial teammate. I also, like Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano at the Daytona 500 a couple years ago, Ryan Blaney did not pull out to pass Joey Logano because he wanted Roger Penske to win that race. If he pulls out and somebody passes them both, he gave a last-second move to get him. He gave a last-second, coming out at the turn 4 at the dog leg, but made sure it was late enough that nobody else was going to win the race besides a Penske car. I think in this situation, a Daniel Suarez is leading. Ross Chastain is going to push him to make sure they both are first and second.
I'm asking you, though, if Chastain is in front and Suarez is in second, does Chastain lift and let him go? That, to me, is the bigger thing.
I can't.
I don't believe he pulls out. I don't believe he pulls out and passes him.
I believe he tries in the dog leg where it's last second where nobody else is going to get me. But I'm not pulling over. I'm sorry. I'm a great teammate, but I'm not just going to say, oh, you need to get in.
Well, it's certainly going to make for an interesting dynamic because we do have a lot of situations where we got teammates that are in and then there are teammates that are not in. So that's makes
Daytona.
Makes Daytona exciting. All right, we come back on Gone Racing. It will be time to start breaking down the odds to win and some of our top 3s for this weekend at Daytona.
This is Gone Racin, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
Back here again for another segment of Gone Racing, and it is final regular season race of the year.
His arm hurts.
That UCL is just getting worn out right now by Wyatt. Final regular season race of the year. Brendan, we were actually talking off air. Is there anything more exciting than having the final race of the year at Daytona?
No, when you talk the upcoming schedule, we got the playoffs coming. You got the Darlington race, of course, at Southern 500, our famous weekend. You got Kansas and Bristol and all these things coming up. But NASCAR moving July 4th was a huge deal, right? I mean, as a fan, as a
Firecracker 400, we called it when I was a kid.
Firecracker 400.
Up.
Yeah. It was absolutely one of the most famous race dates. And it took guts to move it, but this is the absolute right race to be the last race for the playoffs. It's played out every year just about with drama to get people in or out, and it's phenomenal. It's just absolutely awesome to watch.
Well, we are headed down to Daytona. This will be the final race of the regular season. Then we look ahead to the playoffs. We'll be going to Darlington for the Southern 500 to kick off the playoffs, then Kansas. Then we'll close out the first round of the playoffs with the night race in Bristol, and then we'll kick off the next round with our only stop of the year at Texas Motor Speedway. But, Brendan, all eyes right now are on Daytona. We'll worry about the playoffs next week, but this is all about Daytona. And, when you look at the statistics at Daytona, we see a lot of these races where, for example, you might throw Bristol up there and see where Kyle Busch has got 35 starts, he got 13 wins and 23 top 5s or something. No, we look at Daytona. 44 starts for Kevin Harvick. He's only won twice. Denny Hamlin, who we think of as Mr. Daytona, 35 starts, only 3 wins.
Yeah, but you got to look at those top 10, top 5 numbers. I mean, that's the thing about me is when Denny Hamlin is, he wins or finishes in the top, like he's got 11 top 5s, 12 top 10s. You basically are there or you're not there. It's a feast or famine. We've talked about that forever. But there are guys, and you've said this, why do certain guys have more finishes than others? It's not a total crapshoot. There is thought and strategy to this, and that plays out. And you look at a guy like Kyle Busch. He's got 36 starts, 11 top 10s, 8 top 5s. Not as many top 5s as Denny. Kyle doesn't like it. So Kyle, especially there's a midpoint of his career that Kyle absolutely abhorred these places. So he did not do well. But you look at guys look at Austin Dillon, 20 starts, 50% almost top 10.
I was going to say, two guys, Austin Dillon and Ryan Blaney, look at their percentages in starts and top 10s. Their percentages
way better than everybody else.
Way better than everybody else.
We talk about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He's not actually that good.
No.
He's got the wins.
Well, you talking about feast or famine.
That's Ricky Stenhouse.
Now, that is wreckers or checkers.
yes, it is.
No question.
He didn't
about
have to be that this time, though. He's in the playoffs.
That's true.
So my Earl Ross nugget kind of goes
Earl
over
Ross
this.
nugget.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
got one.
Wyatt has knowledge he's going to drop on
This
us.
was on Twitter from NASCAR man _RR because Dale Jr. retweeted it. But we talk about these races are chaos. The last 10 years, an average of 30 cars have crashed in each of. He used the Firecracker 400, but last year 86.5% of the cars crashed. It was the most destructive race. So basically, what you guys are telling me, it's like you're almost guaranteed to be in a wreck in this race.
Look, when we come to Daytona as a race team, we show up with every body panel pre-made for us to put back on this car.
But which is really hard to do now with the damaged vehicle.
There's different rules now than when I was there, but you showed up ready for damage. Like that was what you came up ready to do because you can repair these cars and still go fast. So you absolutely are coming for carnage. And he's not wrong. Now that you've added this race as the cutoff race, there's way more. You just said stages are going to be huge for a Bubba Wallace, Ty Gibbs. So you're going to have two guys at least that are going to be making crazy moves for stage points.
Right. And if there is a big wreck, I mean, if there's 8 cars that are completely torn up that can't run,
that's 8 points.
The key for you is even if you're in the wreck, get at least 1 lap in.
You get 8 more
That's
points.
8 guys you pass.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's advantages to be able to just get the wheels on it if you get into an accident. So, no, it's a great point, Wyatt, and I think that's why Brendan and I love to call this race somewhat of a crapshoot because
You like to call it that.
Well, I think I even have you on board with that now.
Nah, I'm never going to be 100% on board with that.
Well, let's talk about the odds to win and
Guaranteed double-digit winner.
guaranteed double-digit winner. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a little surprised at the favorite. It's almost like somebody thinks that it's in for Chase Elliott. So,
give you the stat.
which is impossible at a big track like this. Chase Elliott is the favorite at 11-1, and then let's throw a blanket over 12-1. Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, and Brad Keselowski all at 12-1. William Byron is 14-1. Chris Buescher 16. Bubba Wallace 18, Ross Chastain, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kyle Larson, and Daniel Suarez all at 20-1. Martin Truex Jr., Austin Dillon, and Austin Cindric coming in there at 22-1.
Look, you got the guy. You got some. First of all, Chase Elliott 11-1 to win the race. He is the #1 point getter last 10 restrictor super speedway races, not counting Atlanta. They don't include that on here. But Daytona and Talladega, he is the best point getter in the last 10 races.
But he hasn't won at Daytona.
No, but he
has to win.
Doesn't matter.
Finishing second does him no good.
He's finished second at Daytona,
I
but
understand that.
he is the best. So he is the best guy right now in the last 10 races at super speedway racing. With the team and all the stuff we think that, the guys that are going to help, there's a reason why he's there. But then how about an Austin Dillon at 22-1? Last year's winner with a walk-off. Been there, knows how to, been there, bought the T-shirt, not ready to move on yet. How about Chris Buescher at 16-1? They've been pretty strong, that team, on these places. Brad Keselowski knows what to do. These are guys that, they like a lot of it. And then you got guys like a Denny Hamlin, who we just said his stats at 12-1 also. And he's got a lot of reasons to make sure he runs very well and wins this race because it saves the car that he owns. It kind of helps lock them in the race if nobody else wins.
Well, and we still have that regular season championship out there, which comes with, I think, 15 bonus points going into the playoffs. And Martin Truex Jr., who's been the hot, I think we all agree, he has been the hottest driver all summer long. I don't think he's ever won at Daytona. These are not his.
He doesn't like these.
This is not his cup of tea. So I think that's really going to be interesting, the battle between he and Denny Hamlin coming down for this regular season championship. I mean, it might get a little bit of advantage to Hamlin, but, that's a big deal, I think.
Absolutely.
This regular season championship is going to be a big deal. And I kind of am with you. The Austin Dillon, the defending champion of this race, 22-1. He's won twice. He's got we talked about teammates. He's got a teammate who's already in. He's got a teammate who he knows will help him.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got a teammate who, while he may not be the biggest fan of these races, I think he found out driving a Childress car is a little bit different than driving a Gibbs car for him. I don't think Kyle was ever as comfortable in the Toyota as he seemed to be this year in that Chevrolet on some of these type racetracks. So I think Austin Dillon has got to make sure his best friend in the whole world is Kyle Busch and that they take care of each other during the race. And if they do, 22-1 could really come in. All right, let's take a look at our longer shots, if you will, as we go into the second half of the page. Eric Almirola, he is 22-1. Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, and Alex Bowman are all 25-1. Ty Gibbs and Michael McDowell, former Daytona 500 winner, 28-1. Eric Jones 30-1, Ryan Preece, Kevin Harvick, and Chase Briscoe at 35, AJ Allmendinger 45, Corey LaJoie is 50, Todd Gilliland, Justin Haley each at 60, Josh Berry, who will be driving the 42 car this week, is 65-1, along with Harrison Burton.
You just gave a stat. We just have the Earl Ross nugget here where all the wrecks that happen. What does Michael McDowell know how to do? He knows how to wait it out. He's already locked in. He can wait out and be there at the end of this race, and he knows how to win them. I love that Michael McDowell 28-1. I really like the Alex Bowman 25-1. Another team that is looking to win this thing, which has a lot of Chevy teammates that will probably help him in the end. Tyler Reddick, who's going to be out there trying to help, his teammate Bubba Wallace. I like a lot of these long numbers, and even the Colleague cars, 35 and 60-1. Those Colleague cars, man, they're tough, and those two guys have worked together to win, I think, 4 out of the last 7 Xfinity races on Daytona. Those two drivers right there, they get working together. That's going to be pretty impressive too.
And one other guy here, we've seen at Daytona. I mean, let's throw them out there. I mean, you have Trevor Bayne and Michael McDowell, and we've seen guys pull upsets at Daytona, right? 50-1, Corey LaJoie.
Oh,
I mean, that's a big number on a guy who this is where we know he's comfortable.
Listen, and he's got stats to back it up. I mean, he 6th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 14th. He knows how to be running at the end. That's the thing that makes him good, is that he gets there at the end. And if there's carnage, that's a guy that's going to be there at the end.
All right, well, let's take a look at our top threes, and I think we'll see that they mirror a little bit of the way our odds to win are. Chase Elliott leads the board at plus 300. Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Keselowski all at 350. Byron's 400. Busher 450. Bubba Wallace at 500. Chastain, Stenhouse, Larson, Suarez 550. Truex, Dillon, and Cindric all at 600.
Same thing, a top 3 right there, 600 for Austin Dillon. I just zero in right on that number right off the bat. Even a 300 for Chase Elliott, top 3. I mean, those are great numbers.
Do we look at some of these, though, and say, okay, Austin Dillon. All right, here's the way I see Austin Dillon.
Checkers are winning or nothing.
He either wins or he's coming back but carrying the steering wheel in his hand.
But he's got to be there at the last turn. And if somebody gets you at the end, what have I talked for years? Do teammates here, right? If you think the Fords will be there, pick 3 Fords. Toyotas, pick 2 Toyotas. Chevys, pick 3 Chevys, because at least you can narrow it down.
Okay. I guess that's a fair point. I just think that's going to be an interesting dynamic. All right. We're not done with our top threes. We'll finish those up when we come back on Gone Racin.
This is Gone Racing, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
Want to rewatch any part of today's show or any past show? Check out the Gone Racing podcast. It's free and available now at VSiN.com/podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. We give you all the latest news, odds, and everything you need to know to head to the betting counter before each NASCAR Cup Series race. And while you're there, catch up on all the other VSiN shows as well. That's VSiN.com/podcast. Brendan, still talking our top threes for this weekend at Daytona, and we kind of talked about the interesting dynamic that you're going to have probably teammates helping teammates and some guys going for wreckers or checkers or whatever. So we kind of touched on our top threes before we went to break. And obviously, Austin Dillon is a guy we brought up specifically. He's plus 600. And I'm kind of the opinion that he's 22-1 to win. I say if you're going to bet Austin Dillon, bet him to win. I wouldn't bet him for a top 3.
I get it, but I still believe that there's an advantage to he's going to be trying as hard as he can to win, and he may not be eked out by an inch at the line. But I think that a guy like Dillon knows how to get there to the end of these things, and there's going. And on the second page, there's a bunch that I'm going to say the same thing about.
Yeah, and before we get to the second page, one thing that I think is worth thinking about too is we talk about the teammate dynamic. I believe if you've got a guy who's already locked into the playoffs and you know that he's got a teammate that's not, I think that's a guy to take a really good look at for a top 3. Denny Hamlin, William Byron. I mean, I think those are the kind of guys where
Absolutely.
You look at the top 3 saying, hey, he could really be helping somebody and just be right there on his bumper going across the line.
I still believe he'll try to win the race in the end, but but you're right.
Hey, he still gets the top three.
But he still gets the top three. And that's why I think a William Byron is a good choice at a 400, because he's going to be trying to help Chase or Alex get in the race. He'll go to win the race at the end, but you feel that he's going to be there in that position. I don't disagree with that either.
All right, well, some of our longer shots here for top threes. Eric Almirola is plus 600. Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, and Alex Bowman are all 700. Gibbs, McDowell at 800. Eric Jones, 850. Ryan Priest, Kevin Harvick, Chase Briscoe, 10-1. A.J. Allmendinger, 12. Corey LaJoie, 13. Todd Gilliland and Justin Haley at 15. Josh Berry, Harrison Burton at 16.
How about the guy we're not talking about is sitting there at 10-1, Kevin Harvick? I mean, nobody's even talking about him. We skipped him even on just the wins. We didn't even mention him. Harvick used to be great at these places, right? I mean, we used to talk all the time about Kevin Harvick, at Daytonas and Talladegas. Just hasn't done it lately. But to me, Michael McDowell, that 800 for that theory you're saying, he's already locked in. He's going to wait to the end of this race, and he's going to survive the wrecks, and then he's going to go out there and try to go win this race. But at the same time, if he can get behind a Ford and say, I can push and try to beat you in the end, he's going to try to beat him. I can promise you this, Michael McDowell will go for that W at the end, but he's going to be there at the end. And then if there's a Chase Briscoe or a Kevin Harvick sitting there, he's going to help them for a moment until that last corner. Another guy that looks really good for a top three.
Yeah, and I think then in looking at the top three, there's probably a chance that one of the guys in the top three is going to be somebody we're going to say, man, what a great run that guy had. It came out of nowhere. Because a lot of times you do get the big wreck, takes out a bunch of cars, and then you get one of those late restarts and somebody gets in the right line and it just happens. All right, we're going to take a real quick look at our head-to-heads, but if you guys have watched our show for the last several years, you'll know that Daytona and Talladega, Brendan and I spend very little time on the head-to-heads because guess what? There really aren't any good matchups.
Now, there's one that I don't dislike.
You like
Kyle Busch is plus 110 against Denny Hamlin. Kyle Busch with all the Chevrolets in the field to help push. Kyle Busch, who we poo-pooed like mad, and then this year came out and has been like Kyle Busch of old on super speedways. He was.
They're definitely looking for a little momentum right now, though.
Well, he won Talladega, remember? So Kyle Busch did win Talladega this year, and then was running up front at Daytona. Was in that last crash, in the last corner type thing after leading laps. So I do like Kyle Busch versus Denny Hamlin. There's a lot of Chevys there. He's going to be helping his teammate. He's going to be, in that Chevy mix doing a lot of things. And I think that Kyle Busch at 110 is the best return we've ever seen on a big-name driver at a super speedway.
I would agree. And the only other driver with a plus number on him, Daniel Suarez, plus 105 against Eric Almirola. But it's probably just time to talk groups, don't you think? Let's go to groups. All right. Let's take a look at Group A and based on the odds to win the race and odds for top three. No big surprise that our Group A favorite is Chase Elliott along with Denny Hamlin at plus 265. Joey Logano's plus 270 along with Ryan Blaney. And Brendan, we should point out going in, when we do group matchups at Daytona and Talladega, we don't usually see a huge disparity between the favorite and the underdog.
And you're not. It's tough to separate these, right? I mean, we talked about every single one of these guys: Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano. I'm going to go back to the thing I've done on this all the time when we do these shows, though, Jeff. Teammates. I see a Joey Logano and a Ryan Blaney right there versus a Chevy and a Toyota. So if I'm on the Ford bandwagon, I'm going to take either the Joey or Ryan, or if I'm going to say that that wreck happens and takes out all the Fords, I'm going to lean towards a Chase or a Denny. So it's easy to kind of knock a few out depending on which way you want to bet. Me personally, Chase Elliott with what's going on, the only Chevy in that group, I like Chase Elliott.
Well, and I think it's a matter of just saying, does Chase Elliott get in or not? Because I think if he can win this group, he can win the race.
Listen, how many weeks now have I said I'm betting Chase Elliott, he's making the playoffs?
You're right. You've run out of weeks.
I've run out of weeks, so I got to say Chase Elliott's going to win it and say he's there.
Now, we talked about not having much disparity in the groups. We have a little bit in Group B. We have a clear favorite here, Brad Keselowski plus 250, Kyle Busch, and then Brad's teammate Chris Buescher plus 270. And last week's winner, and the guy who's won the most races this year, William Byron at plus 280. We got four guys up here who are already locked into the playoffs, so there's no one in this group who is desperate.
Nope. The only thing I see here is two teammates that are both locked in with Brad and Chris, so a little less cheese for the mouse to be excited about. But you got a William Byron who you said he's going to be trying to help that Chase Elliott or that Alex Bowman, so he's going to be running well. He's either going to get wrecked with that group or he's going to make it through. So I kind of like the dog here, William Byron, just because of that. But I'm splitting hairs to say I like the dog just because of that.
Well, I would say, though, the one guy in that group right there who probably wants to win worse than anybody is Brad Keselowski. His team has won 3 races now since he took over as part owner.
And he's not any of them.
And he hadn't won any of them. His teammate there, Chris Buescher, and don't get me wrong, he's happy for
he's
Chris
happy as
Buescher.
hell.
He is loving it. But Brad wants to get the victory lane. He has always been really good on these type of racetracks. I mean, Talladega, I think he got his first career win. Talladega. When Carl Edwards might have been the paid the price
That's right.
for it, but that's what happened. So I think I kind of like Brad a little bit right here, just because I think knowing he's in the playoffs and knowing how much he likes this type of racing and wanting to get that first win for the race team that he partially owns, I think his motivation's pretty high. All right, let's take a look over at Group C. We got 3 guys pretty close at the top. Almirola and Larson are 260. Bubba's 265. The long shot here is Daniel Suarez at plus 285. So now we're getting into a group where 3 guys are not in, although one, pretty much if he can just keep his nose clean and not have an upset winner, other than Chase Elliott, I guess he wouldn't be an upset winner. But
I look at this and say Kyle Larson is the guy that can have a calm, easy, cool day, and he's going to be helping his teammate. He's going to be trying to do his thing. So I could zero in on him and just say Larson, but then I'm going to say Larson's going to have to be right in the mix helping those Chevys. He's going to be up front trying to push people, trying to help things, which means he's going to be more aggressive, so I could pull him out of it. I struggle with this one because there are guys that are going to be fighting tooth. Eric Almirola, maybe his last year racing, is trying to go out and make the playoffs. He's going to be super aggressive. Daniel's going to be super aggressive. Bubba, we know, is always super aggressive at these places.
What's Bubba's strategy?
He wants to win. He wants to lead laps and win. Bubba needs that.
But he can also get in without winning.
Yeah, maybe.
I know. It's a tough position, I think.
He can guarantee himself by going up there and winning this thing.
I think this is a really hard group.
It's a hard group.
I think this is a very hard group. All right, let's take a look at Group D. Martin Truex Jr., the favorite, at 250. Alex Bowman's 270. Ross Chastain and Ty Gibbs at 275.
Whew. Well, one, I always kind of, we said it earlier, Martin Truex Jr. is not, he doesn't really like how these things play out. So I kind of can fudge off of him. To me, the wild card is that Ty Gibbs, man, aggressive young man, trying to make the playoffs in his rookie season. We've seen what the kid would do, especially in the Xfinity Series when he was running for that championship. He's not afraid to ruffle feathers. I like that. You got Alex Bowman, who's got to make his way into the show with all the teammates and the strength of that Hendrick group. So I like Bowman or Gibbs. But once again, you're not getting a lot of spread on the action here, and you got to pick one of them. It's tough for me to pick one.
So I like one guy in this group.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you why. I like Ross Chastain in this group, and this is the reason I like him. Number one, I don't think Truex. I mean, look, he wants to win, of course. Don't get me wrong. But Martin Truex Jr. is not going to really run up front, I don't think. I don't believe Bowman or Ty Gibbs are still on the racetrack after the checkered flag flies. I just think their aggressiveness, their desperation, I just see them forcing the issue a little bit. I think we've probably seen that a little bit with their history. And so that leaves me as for lack of a better term, a last man standing, and that last man standing to me is Ross Chastain.
I can't dog it. I mean, that's not terrible. Ross Chastain's been very good, so.
At least I have rationale for my pick.
Absolutely.
I'll look at it that way. Okay, back on Gone Racing, our final segment. Finish up our groups, give you our picks, and tell you how bad we did last week.
This is Gone Racing, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
All right, it's our final segment of the regular season of the NASCAR Cup Series coming up. Talking this weekend's race, the Coke Zero 400, right?
Zero 400.
Right, Coke Zero 400 at
You and I
Daytona.
used to call it something else.
We used to call it the Firecracker 400 because he
we-
used to run it on,
It also, I still call it Firecracker, but there was one in between before Coke.
which was a competing
Yes,
soft
so-
drink brand.
yes.
So we probably don't want to just make the people at Daytona mad. So
See, but that's the race that I remember when I was a
You
kid.
probably remember that race.
Yeah.
He and I remember Firecracker. You remember the middle one.
Yeah.
Now it's Coke Zero.
yeah, and they used to run the Firecracker 400 at like 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time before it got too hot. And I think they used to run it on the 4th of July, and then they moved it to the Saturday
yeah.
of 4th of July weekend. So, all right, let's finish up our group matchups. Group E, another tight group here. Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick at 265. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Austin Cindric at 270.
So here's what I look at. Who won the Daytona 500 last year?
Austin Cindric.
This is Group E. You've
Who
got
won it this year?
Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
So we got the last 2 Daytona 500 winners in this group.
Who needs to win and who doesn't? And who have we talked about as feast or famine, and who do we need?
Yeah,
So-
I'm going to throw him in my Ty Gibbs, Alex Bowman.
But I like that Austin Cindric. I mean, here's a guy that's won at Daytona. He's got a couple teammates that are probably going to throw an assist if he needs it. And so I like Austin Cindric right there.
Well, he's the guy I picked to have the most disappointing season.
And he has.
And
He is
How-
absolutely.
However, if Chase Elliott does not win on Saturday night, Chase Elliott will win that award hands
Yes.
down. Austin Cindric will have to just take the runner-up.
But Cindric's got 4 starts at Daytona, 2 top 5s, and then 4 starts.
Well, and part of
one
that
win.
also is the Penske cars. I mean,
Absolutely.
Blaney's run there, Logano, Keselowski when he ran a Penske
Yep.
car. Penske cars, other than our buddy Rusty.
That's
Rusty
why
never ran well there.
he
in
didn't
the-
like it.
in the
He
Penske
didn't
car.
like it.
Didn't like it. All right, our final group is Group F. Michael McDowell's our favorite at plus 250. Austin Dillon 270. Chase Briscoe and AJ Allmendinger at 275.
Here's another one. You got a Daytona 500 winner, Michael McDowell, and then you have an Austin Dillon who has hit a walk-off before. So I'm going to go with the same argument that McDowell, I think it can live till the end. Dillon's going to be going for broke, so will the Dinger and Chase Briscoe. You could say that Michael McDowell will miss the wrecks and just peanut his way, do the old Charlie Brown, racing the motorcycle and just be there at the end and beat these guys because they're going to beat themselves to death trying to get it. So I could stick with McDowell, or I could go with the former walk-off winner who's done it before, been there, done that, Austin Dillon.
Well, and I do like to say that I do think it comes down between those two guys.
Mhm.
I probably will lean Dillon just because the odds are better, but I do believe it comes down to those two guys. I don't see Briscoe or Allmendinger being in the hunt there. All right, and our last one is our manufacturer picks. And if you're a Toyota fan, there's some money to be won here.
Yeah, Toyota the dog for the first time in multiple weeks, but they're always the dog at this place because there's only 6 of them on the racetrack. That is why they are the dog. One wreck takes out 4 of them. That's a bad day for them. So that's the reason they're plus 380. But some of the guys they got take out Truex. You still got Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Christopher Bell,
Denny
Denny
Hamlin, and Ty Gibbs.
You have these 5 guys that to me are all very good there. Couple of them really hungry for the win. Couple of them that just like the bragging rights of the win. So I do like Toyota at 380. That's enough. That's enticement, right? That's what I talk about. The DraftKings is enticing me on this one. That 380 is big enough for me to say yes.
And, I really can't add much to that because I agree with you totally. I think the enticement there on Toyota and the fact that 67% of the Toyotas in the race are already locked into the playoffs, that tells me we got 4 Toyotas out there helping 2 other Toyotas try to win the race. And I know we like to talk about, oh, gosh, these guys all stay together. There's a big chance of them being in a big wreck. But when you got fewer cars, there's also a less chance of having a big wreck. So I think that can kind of work a little bit of both ways. So I do like that. We're not going to spend any time really on the championship odds. They really haven't changed since last week.
We'll focus on them next week.
We will focus on them next week because you're going to probably see a major change in them next week.
But I mean, you also have to say though, this is the last week to get big odds on some people, right? I mean, Kevin Harvick 20-1, that'll drop if he makes the playoffs or next week a little bit. He'll be in the playoffs. But there's some guys that are still on the outside looking in that the odds could drop drastically.
Well, if you think Bubba Wallace is going to make it, look, he's 55-1 right now. He opened the season 40-1, and he's the odds-on favorite right now to be that 16th guy.
He'll be
playoffs.
25-1 next week once it starts because he's locked in if he gets locked in.
Correct. So I think if you're going to roll the dice on somebody,
roll the
now would
dice
be a real
now,
good time if you're going to roll the dice
it's going to drop
on
drastically.
Bubba Wallace. Okay, do we really have to talk about how we did
I won a
last
bet. Did you win a bet?
I won a bet.
Did the pit crew win a bet?
That's right.
I won a bet. They won a bet. Who's the only guy that didn't win a bet?
The guy that was playing golf at Pinehurst last week.
There you go.
So you know what? At least I played golf at Pinehurst, even if I went over 5 last week. Congratulations. Brendan got a win with a head-to-head with – okay, now I want to point this. Brendan gets a head-to-head win over a guy who crashes on the final lap only because the guy he was head-to-head with's crew chief ran him out of gas with 35 laps.
Listen, I'd have rather have the Chase Elliott to win at 350.
I know
Trust
you
me.
would have.
But I'll take my plus 225 right there and lose a point and a half. It just keeps me at 40-plus units for the season, and I'm still looking good. And the pit crew, they gained on you. The pit crew got closer to Jeff again.
Yeah, it's still a pretty good gap there, so not too worried.
It's a
Pit
little
crew got a
momentum
win
on our
with Joey Logano winning his group. Group E. Get Joey Logano in Group E.
That's what we said last week. Logano's in Group E.
I was really happy. Daniel Suarez. I talked so high about him, and he spins coming out of the S's. That was great. It's like,
well,
thanks,
and then,
dude.
of course, the last lap, Austin Dillon and Kyle Larson took each other out coming to the checkered flag.
You guys told me. I didn't see that, and I looked at the finish order afterwards, and I saw that, I was like, okay, I got my Kyle Larson over Chase Elliott, and then I looked at 20th, and I was like, wait, where'd Kyle Larson go? And then I saw that he was like 27th. I'm like, wait, oh, good, Chase Elliott was still further back.
He never got a caution.
He
to
never
get
got the caution to
back
get his lap back.
the
But
rest
I was
of the
like,
race.
whew, that was lucky. I squeaked in that.
The video was hilarious. Kyle Larson is sipping on his water bottle, and Austin Dillon walks by to say something to him. And Dillon is saying something as he walked by, and Larson just kept sucking on his water bottle.
Just keep going. Just keep going.
Just keep going. It's like it happened. Let's just move on down the road. All right, so it's picks time this week. Pit crew is still bringing up the rear.
All right. Well, these are desperation picks. Guys need a win to get in the playoffs. We need a win to catch up with you. So we're going with 5 winners.
Whoa!
We've got Chase Elliott to win, Brad Keselowski to win, Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, and the long shot. I'll be dancing if he does. Corey LaJoie, 50-1.
And I wouldn't have gone the Corey LaJoie if they were going to pick 5 winners. But Jeff, I cannot knock a Bowman, Bubba, Brad, or Chase. Maybe Brad. I would have picked a
No, but I will say this. It'll be the funniest thing in the history of motorsports if all 5 end up in the same crash and get taken out.
It'll at least be the best text message group we've ever had.
There'll be a lot of words we can't say.
There'll
On
be
air.
The emojis that will be coming through our text messaging through the race weekend would be rather amusing.
Absolutely. So, well, I am not going to go with 5 winners. I'm going with no winners. I am going to go with 2 guys for top 3s, if I can figure out where I circled them, I believe. I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin for a top 3 at plus 350. I am also going to go with William Byron at plus 400 for a top 3. I'm going to take a couple of group picks. I'm going into Group D and taking Ross Chastain. I think I kind of pretty made it clear that I really like him there. I'm going Austin Dillon in Group F, and then I also 380 for those 6 Toyotas to win. I really like that one, so I'm going Toyota win.
All right. Well, I am going to pick a winner this week. Who have I been picking every week that I said is going to get one?
Chase Elliott.
Chase Elliott to win, baby. 11-1. Come on, Chase. So I got to put my money where my mouth is. I'm not afraid to do it. Then I'm going to do a couple.
He says the guy with a 40-unit lead.
Hey, I could have a 60-unit lead after this one. You never know. Austin Dillon plus 600. I think that he's going to try to work his way to the end. But then I'm also going to take Michael McDowell plus 800 because of I've mentioned it. He's going to survive. He's going to play the survival game and race really hard at the end. So I like McDowell. I'm doing the one head-to-head that I liked. I'm taking Kyle Busch with my over Denny Hamlin at that plus 110 number. It's a good head-to-head number to have. I've got one group. I am doing Austin Cindric in Group E at plus 270.
Are you switching your picks that you gave me?
No, I just gave you that. Didn't I give you that?
No, you didn't. You told me you were taking Toyota to win.
1, 2,
Unless
3,
you're getting 6 picks.
4.
This
Oh,
week.
no. Oh, no, then I won't take Austin Cindric. Yeah, thanks. I forgot. I scratched that one out. I will go take the Toyota at plus 380. A little hedge on my Chase Elliott to win bet. Yeah, hey.
We made it
professionally
through
unprofessional.
We made it through the whole show without some professionally unprofessional stuff.
Had to throw one in there. That's right. Hey, I got to count. Counting is difficult. 1, 2, 3. Oh, God, what do we have here?
That's Georgetown. What on earth is up on our screen right now?
Yeah.
Are we Motley Crue?
Yes,
really?
because your last name's Motley, so they wanted to make us
The Motley Crew.
Yes.
Nice. Okay, Brendan, I love the blonde hair.
Listen, Vince Neil, I'm all in.
Vince Neil, yeah.
I know the man. He's a nice man. I'll take it.
Vince Neil.
Little rocker.
Okay.
Great work by Michelle.
Yeah, we haven't seen the wrestling picture with the scars.
No, they definitely haven't brought that one.
Like I told Brendan last week, I used that for motivation for you guys to be better this year. Brendan has done it. You've been so.
I'm just like the perennial bridesmaid. I finished second last year to you guys. Looks like I'm going to finish second this year.
Hey, we do have 2 things this week. Austin Hill, my 62 cars back.
Oh, yes.
But Riley Herbst, our Vegas' own. Riley is also in the race. We didn't talk about him. Didn't have odds on him, but got to give a little love.
Okay. Hopefully we'll get a good win out of Riley or Austin Hill. That'd
I'd love
be
to see them do
fantastic.
it.
All right, we'll be back next week. We'll tell you who made the playoffs and tell you how we did on picking our 16 drivers.